Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US Vice President Kamala Harris has defended changing her mind on key issues in her first interview since entering the presidential race.
How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made?
The Democratic nominee was pressed on why her policies on immigration and climate have changed since she ran for president in 2019. Ms. Harris was under pressure to finally face questions, but she shared the 27-minute pre-recorded interview with her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
The most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
Her Republican opponent Donald Trump used a single word in his review after it concluded. Boring, he wrote on his social media site, Truth Social. The World Health Organization has said Israel has agreed to a series of humanitarian pauses in Gaza to allow for the vaccination of children against polio. The campaign will aim to vaccinate around 640,000 children across the Gaza Strip and will begin on Sunday. It will be rolled out in 3 separate stages across the central, south and northern parts of the Strip. During each stage, fighting will pause for 3 consecutive days between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. local time. The agreement comes days after UN officials said a 10-month-old baby had been partially paralyzed after contracting Gaza's first case of polio for 25 years.
We call on all parties to pause, of course, the fighting to allow children and families to safely access health facilities and community outreach workers to get the children who cannot access health facilities for polio vaccination.
A Ukrainian military Source 1 of the F-16 fighter jets sent from NATO allies to Ukraine has been destroyed. The aircraft went down amid a barrage of Russian missiles on Monday, killing pilot Oleksiy Mess, Ukrainian's military said. It marks the first loss of its kind since the planes were delivered earlier this month. The cause of the crash was not a direct result of an enemy missile strike, the Ukrainian military claims. It said the pilots destroyed 3 cruise missiles and 1 drone in Russia's largest aerial attack to date. Germany says it has carried out its first deportation of convicted Afghan offenders since the return of the Taliban to power in Afghanistan 3 years ago. The flight came a week after 3 people were fatally stabbed at a street festival in the western town of Solingen. The killings shocked Germany and sparked an intense debate over asylum rules. When it emerged, the main suspect was a 26-year-old Syrian refugee facing deportation. An Afghan man was detained after another deadly attack in May. The government in Berlin has already announced a series of measures ahead of elections on Sunday in eastern Germany, where the far-right Alternative for Germany is riding high in the polls. Devastating floods triggered by heavy rainfall and the collapse of 3 dams in the Malhan district of Al-Mawit province in Yemen have caused widespread destruction and left 41 people dead or missing. According to the UNFPA, 24 people have been confirmed dead while 17 others remain missing. The floods have completely destroyed 40 homes and damaged approximately 230 others, impacting around 1,020 families. X, formerly known as Twitter, has said it expects to be blocked in Brazil after failing to meet a deadline to name a new legal representative for the company. The social media network closed its office in the country earlier this month, saying its representative had been threatened with arrest if she did not comply with orders it described as censorship. The months-long row began with Supreme Court Judge Alexandre de Moraes in April ordering the suspension of dozens of X accounts for allegedly spreading disinformation. Ex-owner Elon Musk has threatened to reactivate the accounts and has described Justice Moraes as a tyrant and a dictator. And New Zealand's Maori king, Tueti, has died peacefully on Friday at the age of 69. He'd been recovering from heart surgery, according to a spokesperson, and his death came just days after he celebrated the 18th anniversary of his coronation. Local media say he'd been taken to his home meeting place. His funeral rites are expected to last at least 5 days. The movement to establish a Maori monarch, or King Itanga, began in 1858 in an attempt to unite the indigenous tribes of New Zealand under a single leader to strengthen their resistance to colonialism. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.